The latest University of Texas Politics Project poll shows Governor Greg Abbott's approval rating has improved. Executive Director of the Texas Politics Project, Dr. James Henson, joins us now to break down those numbers. Good morning, Dr. Henson. Always good talking to you.
Good to be back, Amanda.
Governor Abbott here seeking a third term in office. He leads Beto O'Rourke by 46% to O'Rourke's 36% from the latest poll that came out yesterday. What has changed from the last poll that saw low numbers?
Well, I think it was a very tough fall and early winter for all political figures in the state. And so the governor's approval numbers have recovered somewhat. He's back barely in positive territory, and his job approval by about 2 points. And we're really, this campaign is now really underway. We talked about it a lot in the fall, but now the primary season is here. People are beginning to pay more attention. We're beginning to see kind of expected patterns in these races, particularly, as you say, with the governor right now with a 10-point lead. A lot of time to go before the fall, but not surprising that this is where the race is kind of starting in its public phase.
And we've got the race for governor, but one of the more probably interesting races when we look at it in terms of primaries is the race for Attorney General, which has incumbent Ken Paxton having 47% according to your poll. We also in that race have Land Commissioner George P. Bush, former Supreme Court Justice Eva Guzman, and Louis Gohmert. That appears to be a very competitive race right now going into the primary.
Yeah, going into the primary with some legal and ethical problems hovering over the Attorney General. We expected this to be an interesting race, and it hasn't disappointed. The key thing to look at here is that the incumbent Attorney General is just under 50% in a crowded field. To avoid a runoff, you need to have 50% plus one vote. And the Attorney General has been hovering just under that threshold in our pollings and in several other public polls. So this race is looking more and more like it's gonna head to a runoff, but we'll see how it shapes up in the final weeks.
You make such a good point. I mean, I hadn't even thought about the runoff for this race, but seeing these numbers, it definitely is a possibility. Other numbers that were talked about or other information that you sought out from the public at large for your February 2022 poll is how well is democracy working in the U.S.?
Yeah, we're very interested in how the political system is working, in particular people's views of it, given the events of the last few years. So we asked a couple of very direct questions. One of them was, how well is democracy working in the U.S. today? And the results, frankly, were troubling. Only 36% of Texas voters chose one of the options, one of the gradations of going well. 55% chose one of the going poorly. Now, you can move the numbers around to, where the extremes are, but no matter how you slice it, most Texans seem to think that democracy in the U.S. Is under stress and not working very well.
Another issue directly related to Texans here is the issue of removing books from public libraries, in particular schools. We're looking at 63% of Texas voters who oppose those efforts.
Yeah, in recent months, really starting in the fall, there's been a movement by some parents groups and other activist groups, sort of outside the educational system, to remove books from public school libraries that address issues of race, LGBTQ identity, and other kind of related issues. And we were somewhat surprised to find, I think, that those politics are not working very well. Those policies are not very well received. There is a difference in partisan support. Republicans are split. Only 41% support these efforts, 44% oppose them. Democrats and independents are much more one-sided. 65% of Democrats strongly oppose, 53% of independents strongly oppose, and 69% oppose it overall. So it's a divisive issue. Right now, there's a public consensus against it, but it's an issue we'll be watching as it becomes more partisan moving forward.
Yeah, there's a lot to come. The website is texaspolitics.utexas.edu. A lot of information. Your team has done great work with this, as they always do. Dr. Henson, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Amanda.